Well, today I wanted to go over and detail a lot of the transphobia that my family is engaging in. And I'm going to be talking about my family a lot. However, there are two exceptions that I'm going to make. One is my brother. I came out to him about probably like a year and a half ago, I think, or so, when I first started HRT. And he basically said, hell yeah, do the thing. And that was basically it. He's never misgendered me or dead named me because he's never really had the opportunity. He never really said anything. Then there was my mom. 10 out of 10, no notes. She's wonderful. Who I am referring to is both of my sisters and my father. And we're going to go ahead and start with my father. I ask him to call me, Ash. And he refuses. Outright told me that he doesn't care. He refuses to call me his daughter. Again, basically said that he doesn't care. He also refuses to recognize my partner as as a girl, or she goes by she they and is gender fluid, but still. He refuses to recognize Willow as my partner. Instead refers to Willow as my boyfriend. And that's just the nice stuff. I am expected by everyone to perform. I'm gonna do what I can to keep this private. So, I am expected to perform a medical procedure, I guess, on my father. And this is and people made it very clear to me that this was an obligation because I live here. Despite the fact that he is of sound mind and body, he can ask for help. He can, he has two sisters. I have two sisters who can set up, additional medical help if need be. Yeah, it's ridiculous. So, I further, because I don't want to be around him while he's dead naming me and so on. I have asked him, because every time he comes down here and talks to me, it is seen as an intrusion. I don't feel safe around him. It aggravates me every time he comes downstairs. And I can't deal with it, sometimes. But the last few times he's come down here, I've told him to stop, and he told me that if I keep bringing it up, that he's going to kick me out. Of course, many of the times that he's come down here, I have been undressed. And he likes to use the excuse of being blind as an excuse to where he doesn't have to have any kind of boundaries. My sisters have reinforced this. Summer has outright compared my being trans as no different than anorexia. My sister Autumn has told me that forcing my father to use my real name as opposed to my legal name is imposing beliefs and is being manipulative. And she was really the one who said that I am doing the right thing by engaging in this, medical care, as it were. And it's exploitation. That's what's going on here. It's exploitation. I am expected to engage in this. I am expected to just, kind of put up with this. And I'm starting to realize as I'm recording this that I'm, especially as I've stayed over at Willow's more and more, that I am not safe here. I'm not safe. See that, and that's the thing here. They think, they have never talked once about me getting physically harmed on the streets. They've never talked about me getting physically, they've never talked about me, getting, hurt by somebody else. It's only about me, misunderstanding what's going on because I'm autistic. I don't even know what to say. Being trans is literally the best decision I've ever made. And really, again, I didn't choose to be trans. What I chose was to act on it. What I chose to do was act on the discoveries that I've made in my life. Instead of what everyone else wanted me to act like. And they have made it very clear that I am not welcome around these people unless I am, dressing, dressing and acting like my old self, which that's not possible because there was no old self. There was no, I am who I have always been. I'm not saying I haven't changed. What I'm saying is that I have always been a woman. I have always been feminine. Before, I was imitating. I was masking, as it were. There is no difference between what I have done. Anyways, then there is Willow. Now, here's the thing. And this is one of the reasons, this is another big reason why I am making this video. A year ago, during the holiday season and all the way up through, we have this annual dinner, us 4 kids do. And we have this annual dinner that we all do. And everyone was calling me Ash, and my ex partner Rory Sawilo, they were there at Thanksgiving last year, and I doubt they're gonna watch this, but if they do, they could vouch for the idea that everybody was calling me Ash except for Dad. Everybody was calling me Ash. They will now not call me Ash anymore. Again, Reagan hasn't said a word one way or the other, but whatever. And, yeah. But now, with Willow, they're not doing that anymore. Willow is also non-binary and gender fluid, just like Rory is. Rory is gender fluid, non-binary as well. So what's the difference? Oh, it is very simple. Willow is assigned male. I am assigned male. As long as it looked straight, they didn't have a problem. It's when it looks gay that they have a problem. That is extremely convenient. It gets better. Willow's not a man. Willow is intersex. Willow is chromosome, does not have XY chromosomes. I don't know what it is. I didn't bother asking. I didn't care. Whatever. But yeah. Willow and I are the best of friends. We have we are totally comfortable around each other. When I remember we met on the weekend of August 25th. That's when we made it official. I think that was a Monday. I think if I remember correctly. But we made it official on the 25th, and on that weekend, either before that or the closest weekend to that, we talked for literally 8 hours, nonstop on video, and we knew that we had found the perfect person. Willow loves all of my silliness. Willow loves everything about me. Willow loves everything. Willow is everything I ever could have wanted. Willow wants me. And and the only thing that they've ever said about Willow, is that they bring up her DID. It's a dissociative identity disorder, for those people who don't know. Essentially, Willow has multiple personalities, as they used to say. And they believe that, based off of one meeting and Dad's word, effectively, that Willow is abusive to me, which is completely ridiculous. And they have no proof. Willow is not welcome. Again, being the fact that Willow is assigned male and trans is extremely convenient. I'm just putting it out there. So why do they believe that Willow is abusive? Well, Willow was upstairs, and they were making pancakes. A pancake. Willow likes the pancakes really big. Anyway, yeah. Willow was making themselves a pancake upstairs, and she was like trying to flip it, and Toby, my father's guide dog, decided to sneak up on Willow and stick his nose right in her butt. And any normal person would be startled. Willow, however, and I remember because the vacuum cleaner, I have a Roomba, so the vacuum also snuck up on her at one point, and she, just got really scared. She didn't scream when the vacuum did it, but she threw her arms up, which made sense that she would do it upstairs too when Toby did it. Because then she was trying to flip the pancake, her arms flew up and the pancake flew off and hit the floor. And Toby decided to eat the pancake. I mean, he's a dog. I mean, seeing eye dogs, they're not perfect. Okay, they are still dogs. Okay, so Toby eating the pancake, that doesn't surprise me. Toby even sniffing, that's dude, you need to learn personal space. But still, okay, that doesn't actually surprise me either. Toby does not have as much he doesn't have as much, he doesn't have as, he's not always working. That's what he's trying to say. That's what I'm trying to say. He doesn't always work. So he's still in pet mode a lot of the time. But Dad felt uncomfortable. And that's the thing. If Dad wants to feel uncomfortable when Willow turned around and yelled, Toby, fine. You can feel uncomfortable. Why didn't you ask what was going on? Why didn't you strike up a conversation? Instead, and that's the thing, because he went off and he told Autumn and Summer this, and Autumn and Summer immediately accused Willow of being an abuser. Here's the thing. This is the best part about this. I was in an abusive relationship with a former partner, or an unhealthy relationship that had the pattern of abuse. I that's probably more precise to say, because that first partner that I had, she really did try to work on herself, but just couldn't get a handle of what was going on. That's why I supported her for so long. And they did not say a word. Afterward, when I reflected on it a lot and described it as abusive, everybody retconned everything. They retconned all of it, and they were like, oh my God, it was such a nightmare that you went through this. Oh my gosh, Ash, we're so sorry, honey. We're so sorry, girl. You should never gone through that. No. Garbage. Garbage. They never said a word. They may have said a couple things where they didn't like that partner. That's nonsense. They never said a word to me where they thought she was being abusive. Ever. Anyway, but now they are with Willow? No way. No way. That's not a coincidence. I refuse to believe that. Willow, and this has always been repeated. They've never given Willow a chance. They've included in saying things that were demonstrably false about Willow. They attempted to press charges against Willow and me too. I went off when I tried to get Dad to use my name, Ash, or Ashling. It's Ash is short for Ashling. Don't worry about it. When I tried to get, and I said, look, I'm not comfortable doing doing these things for you. I'm not comfortable. I don't want to see you, because I started locking the door too, so we couldn't come downstairs all the time. And Dad, they tried to get charges pressed against me too. They stick, but still, it's intimidation. And they have the nerve to say what I did was manipulation. I'm asking for some basic respect. As in, to be treated the way I wish to be treated. Look, if you don't want to see me as your daughter, that's fine. I can't control that. But you can at least address me how I wish to be addressed. Anyways. What else did I want to say? Well, they never gave Willow a chance after that incident. They tried to, they've repeated this whole, we're not comfortable stuff. And after that, I was just like, you know what, I'm done. I'm done. I know, and that's the thing. Like, here's the thing. I say I'm done now. It's like, I'm done now. But that's not true. I've been done with my siblings for a very, very long time. Okay, since 20, since in 2010s or something. when they started saying, yeah, you know what, yeah, when I started being married, when I married my wife, my now ex-wife, I realized I was done. She was the one who convinced me how bad these people were. She enlightened me as to, because it only happens because I learned it. And I learned it from all of them. That's the thing. I've gone over a lot of this stuff with my therapist too, and first of all, I have no shared interests. I mean, to an autistic individual, that is central. That is absolutely vital. Without shared interests, yeah. And there's shared memories, sure, but all those shared memories are bad, or neutral, or they just don't have any. Don't have any. So what you're saying, Ash, honey? You don't have any. That's no, I don't. All of my good memories from my childhood were when I was alone. That's the thing. They don't know anything about me either. They don't know anything about me. I mean, heck, most of these people probably don't even know I'm a writer. Let alone the titles of anything that I've written. Let alone what it's about. You can find it on my wall, for God's sakes, if you look hard enough. I think I linked a couple of them. I think I posted a couple of them. You can ask for it. It's not that hard. They don't care. No, yeah. Why would I care? Which then leads me to the last part. Some of these, a lot of people think about stuff like, you should forgive them, and maybe it's all a big misunderstanding. We should move on. Let's wave a magic wand. We're going to wave ourselves a little magic wand, and we're going to say that we should just put all this stuff behind us. And okay, so we're practicing forgiveness, but see, for me, forgiveness is a very specific. It's a very specific protocol. You examine the past. You learn all the lessons you can from it. Then you put it all behind you. That's step 2. And step 3, you re-examine. You re-examine everything moving forward. But I don't have anything left with these people if I remove all the bad stuff. I mean, other than, I guess, a financial arrangement, with potential inheritance? Question mark? Do I even care? Not really. I mean, heck, I came as trans, so as far as I'm concerned, I may be written out of the will anyway, so, I mean, I don't know. But forgiveness means I move forward with my life. I just, as far as I'm concerned, I'm going to just run out the clock. I'm going to, do the financially responsible thing, get rid of my debts, and move on. If I'm missing something here, because these people are boring. Whenever I'm around them, all they ever talk about is like sports and like the news and like their work or something. And I don't care. I would never associate with people like this in my real life. And that's my standard. My standard for a family member, my standard for family, a best friend. My mom is a good best friend. My mom's a great example of a best friend. She takes interest in what I do. I have my niece Kayla. Well, we kind of fall out of contact, but because she lives a busy life and she lives in another city. I think she lives in another city. I can't remember. I don't know where she lives now. But point is, I still consider Kayla to be family, and I don't know what to say. Everybody else, I don't, there's nothing to bond over. Kayla and I have bonded. We have nothing in common. This is a really good example. You don't have to have a common interest, but you do have to take time. You do have to be supportive. And they have not done any of these things for me. My sister Autumn had a couple of conversations and a few suggestions. That was pretty much it. For an autistic individual, that's pretty bare bones stuff. Just putting it out there. You do have to put forth some effort. You do have to actually bond. And they haven't done that. So forgiveness, it looks like moving on. These people are flat out transphobic. And that's the other thing too. If I'm going to forgive them, why would I want to be around people who I know just don't want me to be around them as a trans person? This would require a totally fundamental shift in everything that they've believed. They believe that, they believe that I should exist for the world and not the other way around. You can't fix that. There's nothing to fix. Thank you for your time.